Good evening, ladies and gents. I am just going to get our settings ready, and then we will crack on with this evening's weekly Q&A. Go into Facebook. Okay, we are live. Get rid of that. Close that. Close everything down. That's going to interrupt me and distract me. Okay, I believe we are live. If anyone is there and they can confirm that they can hear me, that would be fantastic. Good evening, Rachel. How are you? Right. Here we go. So welcome back to the weekly Q&A session. Good. Thank you very much for confirming you can hear me, Rachel. Yeah, welcome back after a week off from the weekly sessions last week. Andy and I had a fantastic time at the Golf Open last week. Before that, we did have a full day of brainstorming for Client Engager at Andy's office, where we have come up with a very long list of new ideas and little tweaks and improvements we want to get done in Client Engager. I believe that will all be passed on to Peter this week, ready to see what we can do quickly and easily, which ones are going to take a little longer, and he's got on the ideas poll, basically. And I'm also hoping this weekend to release the updated roadmap for September, October, November, so that everything is public to you. You can see all the results from the poll and what's going to happen when. I'm just going to try and spend some time and get that put into a nice Canva PDF type document to make it look pretty, which means it won't look pretty at all, but it'll look better than a spreadsheet. So we'll be doing that. So good evening, Andy, who's joining us, and good evening, Lorna. Thank you very much for joining us, folks. So in tonight's update, I'm going to go through 4 updates that are coming out this evening. They may be there already. I doubt it. It probably be later tonight when these go live for you all. And as always, after I have gone through those updates, I will take any questions. So if you've got any questions that you want to ask, start sticking them into the comments now, so they feed through to me, and then I will go through them for you. And remember, there's no topics bold here, barred even here. I'm more than happy to talk about any of the features, no matter how simple you might think it is, even how I use it in my firm or how Andy uses it in his firm. You know, we're all up for sharing our experiences here. So any questions whatsoever, please do stick them in the comments and I will go through them in a bit. And a special thank you to everyone that voted on the poll between chilies and exclamation marks. You will, yeah, it's incredible, isn't it, what we debate in the world of Client Engager. Andy is flipping chilies. Brilliant. So good evening, Heather. How are you? Rachel wants to know, why do I keep my trainers on the bookcase? Because, Rachel, I've got so many pairs of QuickBooks trainers, I have 2 pairs to go on display. It's showing off ultimately. But yeah, I always wear, so these are grey QuickBooks trainers with the QuickBooks green logo on them. But I've got a pair that I wear to all my conferences. And then I have a couple of pairs on display. Apparently it's the in thing, is displaying trainers and shelves. But yes, right. Anyway, enough of the QuickBooks trainers. We've got 4 updates to go through. 1 really quick one, and then 3 slightly more in-depth ones. So we're going to move on and crack on with these, basically. So let's go into Client Engager. So our first update is an added auto placeholders. So what we've got now so if I go to, think about this, I want to go to my templates. And you know where things are, come on. If we insert a new placeholder, beforehand we had PayYE ref, but we didn't have the PayYE Office reference. So that's now there. So that will go in and that will populate now with your client's PayYE Office reference. So places that this is normally quite handy is when you send out emails where you want to get the client to pay the PayYE bill and you need to give them the PayYE reference, you can just put that into the template and it will auto-populate now with that information. So that came off the back of the last lot of updates with placeholders. Someone mentioned that we hadn't included this, so that is there now for your PayYE Office reference. So that was the quick and easy one. Next one, while we're in the settings, so let's have a look at system users. So up till this point, adding a user has not been overly easy, or it's not the most common sense approach, shall we say. So you had to add the user, set their password for them, give them the domain, give them the email address that you've set it up with, and give them the password. Whereas now you can click to add a new user. Call him John Smith. I'm going to put it to Johan at Asia. Oh no. App. And then I won't put in a department. I'm just going to give it user access. I'm not going to change any permissions because that's not what we're here to process. But here we've got the password setup. So if we go with the type password, this is the old method that we had. But if we send an email to the user with a link, then that's what is a more normal process, shall we say. So I'm going to save that as a new user. Oh, I'm already on here, so that's not going to work. Okay, let's have a look at... Okay, it's all going wrong. Contact. There we go, I can spell. Okay, so that's now sent an email to my email account. So if I go to John Smith, here we go. We click on that. This is now looking like it's all normal, so that's fine. And what I can do is I'll just bring up my emails a moment. I'll show you this email. Come on. Close that. Give me 2 seconds and I will show you this email that we get. Of course it goes there. Right, so. Okay, so this is the email that your new user will receive. Dear John, Principal Admin is asking if you, so where it says Principal Admin, that will have your name if you've added them, is asking you to set up a new password for your account for My Practice, which will be the name of your practice. Set up the new password for your account, click here. This link's valid for 3 days. If you don't recognize the activity, please ignore the message. By clicking that, it will then take them in to create their own password on Client Engager. So if we do that, I'm already logged in, so it's not going to show you. But yes, basically, clicking the click here bit will take you into Client Engager, setup screen, so you can set a password for your user, etc. So that's the new user creation process, basically, to make it a bit slicker and easier to add users, and brings it in line with what you'd expect from most softwares, really. The next update is in deadlines. So let's see if I can find any examples. I want to go to, I'm going to group this by staff member. Let's see if I can find an example here. Here we go. Okay, so I'm looking at Steve Jones here. Steve Jones has got some limited company accounts work to do here, but it's waiting on Helen Brown to finish her section. So that's confusing me potentially that, oh, I'm Steve Jones, I've got some work. Oh, no, I haven't because it's waiting on Helen. Now, we didn't want to get rid of this because it's important that you know what's coming up in your workflow. However, what we have said is sometimes you want to just get rid of the work for this week. So if I change this layout to make it look a bit better, so I'm going to go by week. I'm going to say Steve Jones work. So I'm now going to say I don't want to see any jobs on here that aren't ready for me to actually carry out the work. So basically, we've got all this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. They're all waiting for someone else to do the work, so they're being held back. So I'm going to say ignore holdups. What that's done is it got rid of all the jobs that aren't ready for me to do my part yet. So I don't have to worry about any of the jobs that aren't ready for me yet. So that's just that button there for holdups. So that's coming out tonight for you all. And there's a little explanation there on the I mark telling you what that's about. So hopefully that means your team are able to work on stuff that's just relevant to them. So it's something I've been using for the last couple of days, and it's been really helpful actually, just to help me focus primarily on what I need to get on with and what I can get on with. So that's been really helpful. So Rachel's asked if we can get rid of jobs where we are waiting for clients to come back to us /supply documents. Okay, I was going to reveal this later, Rachel, but while we're on this subject, here's what I've just done recently. So if I go to my settings, I go to system users. I'm going to put in a password here. Fine. So I'm going to save a user called client task. Okay. Then what I might do is I might go into services. I might go to limited company accounts. I'm going to add a new phase here. Preparation. No, that's not going to make sense, Johan. Approval in review. So I'm going to put a task in here. Waiting client. Approval. I'm going to set this as client task. Save that. If I then go to my deadlines, I'll go to my limited company accounts. Go and blind in. And get rid of Steve. So if I go into this set of accounts here and I complete this one, I'll say I'll complete that one. I don't want to send the email. This is now marked as awaiting client approval. So it's under CT, which is client task that I've set up. So what I would then do is, so the next person waiting for this is TY. So I'm going to go and filter to see TY as jobs only. So TY's got one job, a couple of jobs coming up here, but they're both holding up, waiting for client tasks to complete previous. So if I now hit ignore holdups, they're gone, Rachel. So that's how you could do it. So what I've actually done this week is I've created a user for HMRC, a user for previous accountant, and a user for client task. And then I've put in my phases where I'm waiting on for something where I can't progress it any further until HMRC, the previous accountant, or the clients responded. Then I assign it to them. And then if I want to see what tasks am I waiting for the clients to come back to me on, I can see them all here. So that's my workaround for it, Rachel, would be create some fake users, put them on, apply those fake users as defaults to the phases where you're waiting for a client to approve something. So, I've created the phase called awaiting client approval, and I've assigned it to that client fake account. And that just makes it a lot easier for me to filter and look at the right people. So yeah, that would be my solution to that one, Rachel. Hopefully that's a solution. Great, yeah, and it's a great solution because, as you say, Rachel, you don't pay per user, so you couldn't do this very affordably in other softwares, could you? What's that? I'd be paying £90 a month for the privilege of that in some softwares. But yeah, so that's a benefit of the unlimited users is you can have fake users, which is always a bonus. Right, so that's the ignore holdups option. The next one is a big one. Rachel, you're so right. There is no other software, just Client Engager. Right, so the other option, the other new feature that's coming up tonight is if we go to services, if I go to limited company accounts, for example, I scroll down, automatic internal deadlines. There we go. Everyone wanted this and we have built it. So basically, we know the deadline for a set of limited company accounts is 9 months after the year end. So it's automatically going to schedule. But I want in my phone to have best practice. I'm going to make sure my deadlines are all my annual accounts are done within 3 months of the year end. So all I've got to do is turn on automatic deadlines, internal deadlines, sorry, put on 6 months before the statutory deadline, and I'll press save there. And what that automatically does is it goes through and it will apply that new internal deadline to all future tasks. So it won't have applied it to any jobs that are already active, because we don't want to mess around with those internal deadlines because you might have already set them. But now, if I complete this job here, oh, I've not done my checklist. So if I complete this job here, and I now look at this, right, so I can fix it limited, Johan. Let's actually make a note of this. Complete that. So I'll complete that job. So I'm going to find, fix it. I'm going to find all staff members. That's the, there we go. So I've put it in. So the statutory deadlines are plus a year. So this is the new task that's just been created. It's automatically applied the internal deadline, which is 6 months before the statutory deadline. So that's automatic reminders now set. So you can do that from your services. And then, of course, if at any point you decide actually, where were we? So if at any point you want to change this, of course, you can come into this specific job for this specific client and go, actually, we're going to aim for the 10th of April instead. So you can still override this manually, as you always could, but now it'll automatically apply an internal deadline for you. So another example we have in my firm is on services for VAT. So I have mine enabled. Now we technically get 37 days, give or take, to file a VAT return. So I always say to my guys, I want it done 15 days before the deadline. So I've got 2 weeks to chase my clients. So yeah, so that's internal automatic reoccurring internal deadlines sorted. So let's have a look at our comments. Remember, guys, any comments, any questions whatsoever, whether it's about what I've just announced or whether it's about what's coming up, then please stick it in the comments. You can tailor by client in services, can't you? Yes. So Andy is completely right. So if I go into my clients, and if I go into my service and pricing, nope, my service detail, I can set the auto internal deadline. I can either use the default one that's already turned on, or I can just create a custom one for this one client, which will reoccur every time, or I can disable it entirely for this one client if I want to. So yeah, once again, we've done it at a global level in the settings, and then you can do it at a client by client level in the price service detail page for each service. So hopefully that will be beneficial. Rachel says, I love the sticky filters on the clients list. Is there a way to have having the filter number of days to be more sticky than it is? Having the filtered number of days. So I think what you're asking there, for Rachel, is I go here to deadlines because I put 20,000 in here earlier. It's still there. But if I go to dashboard, if I click on 25 overdue, it automatically goes back to 30 because that's the filter we've programmed it to do. So if you click onto any of these drill downs, it knows to apply certain filters, and you can see what it's doing up here. So it's deadlines by days forward equals 30, blah, blah, blah. So that's why it's not as sticky for the days forward, because those, if you were only ever going into deadlines here, I could refresh this 100 times and I could look at different jobs, etc. That would all stay there. But the moment I click on my dashboard and do a drill down, it will default to the days forward that we've set it in. Now, if you want to set these days forward, so the dashboard's looking further ahead, you can go on to show details and you can set this to look further ahead. So you might want 30 days here instead. So you can set each widget to go as far forward as you like. So, for all services, I might, I'm only actually looking forward for 2 weeks here. But maybe for CIS, I need to look forward 30 days. Bookkeeping, it's currently looking forward to 7, so I might want to look forward 30 days here. And that's it. It's now updated to bring in one bookkeeping that's 30 days away. So that is the reason those filters aren't quite as sticky on days. It is if you're just using the deadline board, it's very sticky. It's like all the other filters. But it's when you drill down, clicking on these various options, that's when it overrides that filter, Rachel. So hopefully that makes sense. Paul, what about setting internal deadlines after receivable date? Say we want to complete 2 months after we receive the paperwork. For that, Paul, you'll need to do it manually, which, to be fair, isn't a huge ask. So if we go to deadlines and we go into our jobs, and I need to clear some of my filters here. But if I click on this one, for example, I've got to come in here to set my records received date. So to then come in here and go, right, I've had that, so I'm going to set that for a week's time. Then, yeah, you're already there, so it's not a huge job compared to the amount of time and effort it would take for it to go for us to build the intelligence for it to go, right, that's there. They normally want it 3 weeks after that type thing. So yeah, we won't be building the record based on records received date just because it's so easy to do it while you're there. But if it's bringing the service forward from the statutory deadline while maintaining the statutory deadline, then you've got that feature now. Andy said, can you change those filter days in the pills on the dashboard? Yes, you can, as I have shown. Oh, and there we go. Rachel says, that helps me understanding. No problems, Rachel. Andy wants to know if relationships on Kanbans have been covered before. They have. I covered them a couple of weeks ago, Andy, but I can recover them for you if you'd like. Paul would like to know if we can get a plus minus weeks, months, like you have the same for some other date fields. At the moment, Paul, it's just going to be what it is. So it is what it is for now. It's just because the plus and minus bit is actually quite a big, complicated build as well. So what we've tried to do is just slip this one in quickly. And the easiest way to build it and nice and quickly was to just give you the option to set number of days, months, and weeks before the deadline. So yeah, years, months, days before the statutory deadline. That was just the easiest way to build it quickly. So we will add your idea of plus and minus weeks and months, but it won't be done overly quickly if it's done at all at the moment. But yeah, so that's there at the moment. Has anyone got any other questions? Move that one. I think we've gone through them all. But yeah, so they're the 4 updates that are going to get rolled out tonight. If they're not already out there, they'll be rolling out late tonight. And then Peter's currently working on the forms feature, and we've also made some really good progress with the APIs for the new app that's coming out in the coming weeks. So it's been a busy week. Andy would like me to. Andy's quite proud of this. So, Rachel, 0 is in progress. I've not got a date for it yet. The forms is taking a bit longer than we would like due to some bugs that we're finding in it and it causing us headaches. So, once the forms is done, 0 is one of the next things on the list. And I believe I did say August for 0. So, yeah, we're still roughly on target for that. So Andy would like to go through relationships on Kanban. So as I say, we did cover this last week, but so if I go to all job types, we now have this ability to see relationships. So who's related to this company? The main reason we had this built was because when I look at, say, if I go to my self-assessments, I need to put dates in here. And let's spread this out by team member. So when I look at this, I go, well, who on earth is Fiona Griffiths? I can never remember who this person is. Whereas now we can go, right, let's have a look. Oh, okay, she's part of Let's Get Organised Limited. So this is another one of those things that you can turn on or off, relationships. On and off if you don't want to see it. If you've got a small practice, you might not need to see it. But if you've got a practice like mine, then I would go in, I'd have that turned on so I can go, right, well, who's David Baker? He's not got any relationships, so he must be an individual that's not related to anything. But David Hamilton, on the other hand, is related to Professional Services Limited. Molly Baker is related to Coffee and Cake Limited, etc. So it's just another little insight for when you're looking at something and go, well, who on earth is that? Andy Wayne has said 5 minutes snooze around 7:30. That would be why you missed it, Andy. Yeah, right. Paul has said, watch the Practice Manager webinar from QuickBooks this morning. What's your takeaway from it? I haven't watched that, Paul, namely because I've got 0 interest in what QuickBooks are doing with their practice management tool, purely because I'm focused on Client Engager. I've not looked at it. I know it's powered by another practice management tool that they've done a deal with. You know, I don't know what their plan is for monetizing it or anything like that. I've paid very little attention, so I haven't got an opinion on it, if I'm honest, Paul. But hopefully we'll see some more, if it, as I always say on the Ask the Accountant podcast that I do with Aaron, if there's only one Client Engager or one practice management tool in the market, we get sloppy, we get lazy. If there's 5 or 6 practice management tools all driving innovation and pushing each other, then the only people that win are the users. So, the fact that QuickBooks has brought a practice manager tool into their marketplace, hopefully we'll see some ideas and innovations there that can inspire and push us all forwards with new features so that we can then go, well, actually, that's a great idea. This is our take on it. So, yeah, hopefully it just keeps the market competitive, because we all know what happened to accounting software when there was only Sage on the market. Lorna has asked, the Client Engager invite went out to the first name rather than the preferred name. Do you know why this happened? So, Lorna, what we're saying here, let's have a look. So what you need to do is go to your templates. He says, I can never find these things when I need to. Don't tell Andy that, because he'll tell me to move them again. It's my fault for moving them. Right, so client portal sign up request. So if I click on this, so it's dear contact first name is in our template. If you want the preferred name, you go in here, contact preferred name, and you put that in. Now, if they don't have a preferred name, it will then default to the contact's first name. So hopefully that will solve that problem for you. If you have updated the placeholders and it's still done it, do let us know because, and as Andy said in the comments, we have had some bugs with this in the past. So there's a resurgence we need to know so we can go and stomp it back out. I take it by that reaction, Lorna, that you've not updated the template with the placeholder of contact preferred name. So that'll be why it's happened. Good news, Andy, you've not got to go and find a bug. Right, Paul has said, yeah, they didn't mention more than per client pricing. It's got some nice features. Cool. Well, report back the features and we'll see if we can't build it without ripping them off completely. Obviously, it will have to go onto the roadmap, which is now 115 ideas long. Peter really needs to start working a little bit quicker, just because that list does not get any shorter. So Paul, definitely keep feeding back whatever you're seeing and features that you think are great. Then we can look and see if we want to roll them out in Client Engage or if we can roll them out and go from there. Any other questions or any other thoughts? I'm trying to think of topics that have come up. Rachel said, if QuickBooks do anything like their payroll, it's no threat to anyone. Yes, their payroll is limited in places, especially their standard payroll. But that's what you get when you want cheap. So, yeah. So any other questions or anything, do stick them in the comments, guys. I'm just trying to think quickly what else has come up recently. Automations has been causing a few bugbears recently. So let me go into services. And just a reminder, really, when you set up your automations, that if you need to set them to enable, you need to decide if they're going to be queued or not. If you want them to be queued, so you check them first, put them into yes. If you don't want them to be queued, that means they're going to send straight away without your checking them at the time that you selected for them to send. So always make sure yes. If you say something can't run on a weekend, it won't run on a Friday, it will run on the next Monday because the automations always happen and go forwards, they never look backwards. So yeah, if it's running on a weekend, it will then move onto and you don't want it to, it will move the automation to the Monday. But also remember, if you've set records received date value is set or not set, that will stop the automation depending on what you're asking it to do. So yeah, just make sure you read all the way through and set everything exactly how you want, and it will make sense in your mind. Because they've been causing a few headaches recently for users. Rachel, same with Xero, payroll and Xero practice manager, not worth considering. I completely agree. Their payroll, I have one client using Xero payroll. It's the vein of my life. Everyone else I have is on Employment Hero or what was KeyPay, which is a fantastic bit of kit. So I'm trying to think, what else have we had recently? I've shown you all of what about? Okay, Andy's found a bug where one of the automations went 7 days instead of 14 days. Interesting. I'll have to find that one and squash it. So I've shown you guys what I did with my users, like HMRC user, previous client user, etc. Another thing I've done recently is I've gone into my custom, I've gone to settings, custom fields. I've created a new section at the bottom. Abilities. I'm going to put that into general info. And what I've done is I've created okay. So what I've done is I've created some tax liability boxes for my clients, and my team have now, as part of their work process, when they go into they generate a set of tax returns. My team now have to come in to no, let's refresh this so it's actually there. My team then come in and put in the tax liabilities. So if we take £350 here, then what my team we've then done is we've created a template. But basically, I'll just mock up one quickly for you. So we've created very rough. Obviously, the one I've done, I've put through ChatGPT, so it looks really smart and professional. Here, preferred name. Get to pay your July tax bill. And because custom fields automatically get placeholders now, XX dash XX dash XX 8 using ref UTR personal autocorrect. Like, so much easier when autocorrect's not turned on. And then I put a K there because that's the letter I need after it. And then I can press send, and that will get rid of that. If I press send on that, it will then populate that what the liability is for this tax period. That is due by the 31st of July. I've put the bank details in, and I've reminded them to use their personal UTR number, which will populate there using the placeholders. So just again, we've been working to improve the communication we have in my firm with our clients as reminders and being nagging parents to our clients like we all are. So that's another good little thing we've been putting into place this week. In fact, one other thing that I haven't done this yet, and I stole this from Aaron Patrick, his idea, but I really like this. So this is what we're going to be doing as well. So if I go to like a status update email, have I got any here? I don't think I do. I go to the confirmation statement here, right? Confirmation statement, blah, 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 blah. What Aaron's looking at doing, and I'm doing it as well now, is we're going to have our process part 1. Oh, correct. 2. One, 3. So what we're doing is we're going to tell our clients this is our process, and just like on the little map in the zoo, we're going to put you are here. And next time we then send another status email, you might have it the you are here part, and then you might have it here. So the reason we're going to do this is like annual accounts processes. So this, along with the status updates, really communicates with the client so they know this is the process that we follow, this is the stage we're at, and we've reminded you what our process is each time. So yeah, really, I really like that. So I've stolen that from Aaron Patrick unashamedly. And yeah, we're rolling. I need to find some time this weekend to type these up, basically, for my firm. But we really like that. It's just another bit of communication. So yeah, so that's another idea we're putting into use in our firm. Right, let's have a look. That could be dangerous if you forget to update the value. Could be a great integration with something like TaxCalc, which stores tax liabilities. Yes, Paul, I completely agree. It would be amazing if TaxCalc, TaxFiler, KPM, NOMI, anyone would put their APIs out with tax liabilities in. Unfortunately, they've all got what they think is a practice management tool. So they won't do APIs because they just want you to use their tools. As you say, they need APIs. So yeah, it is dangerous, but my team are very good at following step-by-step processes. So we've now put it in our phases, in our settings. So if I go to services, if I go to my confirmation statement, so we've now got a phase of input corp info. And because that's on there and it's assigned to a person, and that person will get it and they'll tick it to say it's done, gives me something to beat them around the head with if they don't do it. So yeah, it is dangerous because you do need to be very precise. Like, you do need to go, right, that's tax liability that we've told them it is. But ultimately, my team are very good at following instructions, and we've also, I think what we also put in our wording was the tax, like this was the tax bill, please check with HMRC what your actual amount due is or something. So we have put in there some wording to make them go, it might be different, because yeah, we don't know if a client's paying monthly towards a tax bill or something like that. Have they overpaid, underpaid at another point? So we just state what our liability, what the liability was on their tax return, and then we tell them they need to go and check that themselves. Andy agrees with Paul, is it doesn't show the actual liability, but the placeholder. So no, it won't show the actual correct liability that might be at HMRC if there's an over or underpayment or something like that. But the that's why we've put that clause, shall we say, that line in there saying that this is a reminder, you need to go and check actually what your final bill is. Paul says, good idea. Do you find people are skipping checklists? The only person in my firm that skips a checklist is me. My team wouldn't dare to skip a checklist because they know we are checking them and we are auditing them. You know, that is the reason we have a checklist, is that it's an auditable thing. And to be fair, bookkeepers and accountants are quite good at following processes and audits trails. So, you know, whenever a team member said, oh, I've done the accounts, I'll go in and go, right, let's have a look at these accounts. And I can go, right, okay, so they've done this. Now I've skipped this, but I can see who completed it, etc. So yeah, no, my team don't skip checklists, but it's down to how you manage them, I suppose. I can imagine, like, I find it all too easy to click skip because I know what I'm doing, but my team don't skip checklists. No. Andy says we leave the space to type the number in, just as efficient. Yep, again, just as efficient. Although because I've now put a placeholder in there and I trust my team to fill that information correctly, what that enables me to do, compared to you, Andy, where you're having to do this on every single email, I can go on the 1st of July, filter all the clients by enabled services, self-assessment, do that. I can then go select all, message, compose a message, and send out an email for the every self-assessment tax return saying, don't forget to pay July's bill. This is what we think it is, but please check with HMRC. So you wouldn't be able to do that if you're putting in the number for every single client. So by having that placeholder, you've got the bulk ability to send bulk emails, basically. Rachel wants to know, could I bulk send the template email for tax due by filtering the list, just as I have done there, I believe, Rachel? Yep, you definitely can. So, yeah, that's not a problem. If they skip the checklist, then they would follow the checklist before issuing a P45. Oh, Rachel, yes. I don't know if I'd do it straight away. They might get a couple of chances, but yeah, ultimately, look, we are building processes and systems in our workflow, and our team are trained to follow them. So if they're not following them, that's up to us as leaders and managers to make sure we're managing the process, we're managing the team who follow it. Now, whether that results in a P45 or a shouting at different things, but yeah, ultimately, as leaders and managers of our businesses, it's our job to make sure the team are following the processes we're putting in place. We're not putting them in place for our own health. We're putting them in place for good reason. You know, we want to be able to know if a client complains, we've got a backup of the information we've done. So yeah, definitely, your team should be following your processes. Simple as that. Andy says, keep an eye out for no activity ticking, but yeah, all based on trust. Yeah, it is. And I saw Andy's reviewing process, and basically, like myself, all accounts and all VAT returns and stuff, they are reviewed by, in my firm, like client managers. So bookkeepers might do it, but a client manager has to review the work. As part of that review, the bookkeeper does. They check the checklist for the notes, because that's where the bookkeepers passed on information that's important to that VAT return or annual accounts or tax return. So it just makes it harder for them to not do it, unless it's me and I'm lazy and I'll just tick all complete, exclude, no activity. It's fine. But that's me. You know, my team know not to measure themselves by what I do. Paul said, if I find if you keep checklists short, they are less likely to skip. If you micromanage everything, they need to do some feel they are wasting time clicking checklists versus doing the actual job. And yeah, you're right. And also, it's down to that checklist is really it's more there for the new staff or the training staff. It's less there for your experienced staff. So yeah, it's just finding that right balance. But no, my team don't skip checklists. They know that's the auditing log. They know, in effect, that checklist is our working papers. You know, and I was there at Andy's when he spotted that the working papers process he wanted following hadn't been followed in one case, and we couldn't work out how things had been done and how frustrating that is. So yeah, we just refer to the checklist as our working papers, in effect, for VAT or bookkeeping. And all bookkeepers and accountants know how important working papers are for things, and that's what a checklist is for. Rachel's just said she's just a bit harsh. Yeah, P45 for not failing out one checklist is probably a little bit harsh, but hey ho. We all manage our businesses how we choose fit. Okay, is there any other questions on today's updates or anything else that anyone's getting stuck on in Client Engager, etc.? If not, I will call the session to an end. After a good 50 minutes of great questions. Thank you very much for everyone that attends, as always. If you are watching this back, don't forget that on 7:30 on a Wednesday night, I will be here answering your questions and showing you deep dives into features, how I'm using it in my firm, stuff like that. Rachel, I'm sure I've already answered Xero, but yes, Xero is coming. It's coming after Forms. Forms is causing us a few problems, but Xero was always on target for August. That was always the target date, was August. It was not July. I appreciate next week is August, but yeah, Zero will be out hopefully by the end of August for the first 25 or so people, depending on how lenient Zero are. But yeah, so thank you very much for everyone. Rachel, most exciting evening of the week. Yeah, Netflix is getting a bit stale, isn't it? Heather, you're more than welcome. Rachel just doesn't want Zero released while she's on holiday. No. As soon as we have any dates for Zero, we will let you know. Don't panic. It will be released with plenty of notice so everyone can be about for it. So the first 25 people can jump on. But yes. Right. Well, thank you very much to everyone for joining and all your fantastic questions and suggestions. We will see you all again this time next week. I don't know what the topic is for next week yet, but I will let you know once I do. So thank you very much, guys, and have a great evening.